Hello and welcome to another audio analysis. In today's video we're taking a look at the track Council Skies by the English indie rock band Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds. This is the fourth single to be released from their upcoming fourth album of the same name, and it's an album that's going to be showing a lot of reflectiveness in its nature. It's an album that's basically Noel Gallagher taking a trip down memory lane to his childhood, to the council estates that he grew up on, and his experiences in living in the time that he was growing up and the experiences he got to have as a child heading into his teenage years and then going further forward than that. We have already seen three previous singles released from this album in the form of Pretty Boy, Easy Now and Dead to the World, and we've already seen this reflectiveness coming through, but it's talking from a perspective of his own, where it really does make these songs much more prominent because it's something that's very important to him. And certainly when he was a member of Oasis and he had this egotistical, almost self-centered nature about him, and with this project he's really been showing throughout all of these albums over the past 12 years just how he's continuing to mature as a songwriter, as a singer, and even as a person. They certainly say that wisdom comes with age, and certainly these albums seem to be getting better and better with each one that passes as he really shows this more emotive and mature sound and style. So will this latest single prove to be as lively as a council estate or as dreary as an alleyway? Let's take a look at exactly how it sounds. Okay, I'm already loving the intro to this. I love how it has that natural suave and sway to it that really just gets you involved with the actual track. And it's an interesting one because it sounds very modern, but it also has that 2000s indie feel you can see from when you had bands such as The Verve, and you had also Doves and a variety of others, even Elbow. You can really see the influence and the styling from those early 2000s indie bands really being brought through, kind of having that reflective almost sound to it, but almost sounding slightly more modern, like it's been modernized and brought to today's world. And certainly from the scenery in the video we can see that it's kind of reflecting on his past places that he's been, and so probably places that he's actually grown. It's probably where most of it has been filmed. And I like the idea of catch a falling star, we might drink to better days. So it's almost like this idea of when he's a kid and having big dreams, looking up to the skies, the stars, and just dreaming of this big future which he would go on to have. And I like how they're mixing that in with stars, sun, just really showing a lot of these lyrics that really show that, makes it really easy to access, and certainly fits in with the title of the track. Okay, I want to touch on one thing on that particular section of the track. So that lyric, catching the butterfly, is actually really smart because it has a dual purpose almost. Catching the butterfly was actually a song by The Verve, and Noel Gallagher is actually really good friends with Richard Ashcroft, who is the lead vocalist, so you can see that link. Also, this idea of catching butterflies, it's something that you see when you're it's carefree. You often see it used in films and things like that, or certainly TV shows or any of these forms of media, and it's this idea of just this carefree, just running through a field, catching butterflies, not really caring caring about what's going on around you, just being with nature, being with something natural. So I love how it's got that dual purpose on here that kind of has that meaning to Noel Gallagher that really is tied to his memories, but also has that global appeal as well, to just be this idea of kind of just taking a long way home, being carefree, not really having to worry about what's going on in the world. A time before technology where you couldn't contact people all the time. There's no mobile phones when Noel Gallagher was growing up. It was a case of you went out to play and that was it, and you come home when your parents told you and you stuck to those kinds of rules. But outside of that, there was just no contact. It was just carefree and spending time with your friends or loved ones.
I'm dedicated to it all, and underneath the council sky I found you, 'cause life is unpredictable, you can win or lose it all, and underneath the council sky I found you.
Okay, so there's a couple of things I want to touch on with the visuals that we have just seen. First of all, the guy behind the bar that does look a lot like John Lydon. It isn't actually him, it's actually John Robb, who is actually sort of a Mancunian kind of figurehead he's a musician, a journalist, and also a cultural commentator. So great to see they've got him on board just to kind of feature in the actual video. And it's also filmed at the New Century, which is a reopened music venue that was due to be destroyed. It's like a co-op ballroom or something like that. So that's actually been repurposed, is in use again now. So great to see them really featuring a lot of these Mancunian landmarks or things from around that area just in the actual music video to really promote these ideas of these council skies. And I also like again how it's being kept very ambiguous and open. This idea, I believe in Magical I'm dedicated to all, this idea of underneath the council sky I found you, that could tie to a friend, it could tie to a lover, it could tie to anything at all really. They're not really pinning it on one specific idea. I love how it's got that memory for Noel Gallagher, but he's keeping it open for the listener to really draw their own inspirations from their own upbringing, from where they live, these memories that they associate with where they grew up. So I love how it does that. It doesn't sort of just really focus on his memories alone. It really makes it very open to everybody, and I think that's a great way that they've actually done that in this track, to really just sort of show these ideas and really just make it very accessible. And a couple of things I want to touch on the musical side as well is just really, I love how he's got these long gaps between the delivery on the actual lyrics, and I love that because there's so much going on the instrumental side of this track, really just tucked in at the background. You've got this string section being brought in, these beautiful backing vocals that are occasionally thrown in, and also these other really just interesting sounds. You had like one point where it sounded a bit like Tropical Birds, which was something that you actually saw on songs such as The Doves' There Goes the Fear Again. It was actually featured towards the end of the track. So I love how they're mixing in a lot of these things that do tie back to that 2000s indie rock scene, and really just some other elements they're really drawing and making this song sound slightly older, but almost have a newer version and kind of almost like a fresh take of that sound.
'Cause I believe in magical, I'm dedicated to it all, and underneath the council sky I found you. Life is unpredictable, you can win or lose it all, and underneath the council sky I found you. I found you. I found you. I found you. I found you.
Yes, I really do love how it tells kind of a story for Noel Gallagher, but also remains so open to the listener. It's one of the main things I love about that track. I just love how much of a kind of, you could just bop your head to it. You really get pulled in by this instrumental section of back. There's so many layers to it that really, it's like an onion almost. You can uncover a different layer every single time you listen to it. And I love how it's got these very subtle effects in the background. You have got this use of, like say, these tropical sounding birds, the use of the strings. They're not very noticeable unless you really focus on them, but they just add extra layers and extra depth to this track to really make it that just much stronger without you even probably realizing most of the time exactly what it's doing. And it just adds this ability just to really sway to it, to really get involved with it. Has a really nice upbeat melody, which I really do enjoy. And I love how Noel Gallagher's voice just really has that much softer tone to it that really just kind of carries you along. You feel like you're going on this journey with him, and I love that because it's almost like he's trying to slot you into the memories with the visuals and see the things that he's actually grown up around, whilst also really tying in this idea of keeping that global appeal, really just for anybody that's grown up in any place, which we've all done, so we can all associate with that idea of just tying memories back to our childhoods and growing up and really having those experiences that we want to share. So that will be everything for today's video, but as always, please feel free to let me know your thoughts about this track in the comments section below. Do you think this will be the strongest album that he has released with this project when it does land on June 2nd, or do you prefer some of the early stuff they did just when they got going in 2011? I certainly feel like this is just a constant upgrade, album after album. They're really going from strength to strength with some really beautiful sounds, just really having this almost iconic 2000s indie sound, but making it more modern. I really do love that, especially for some of the bands that I listen to around that time, such as Elbow, Doves, even The Verve and others that were still producing music, and really a lot of them are still going to this day and going for that more modernised sound of indie rock, which is really great to see. And as always, if you want to see more content like this, then please do feel free to subscribe, and I will see you in the next audio analysis.